CGTN. My name is Martin Lowe. We're on the island of Koh Samui in southern Thailand, and we're hoping to bring you the latest on Tropical Storm Pabuk, which is sweeping towards us. All along this section of the Gulf of Thailand, there are a number of islands that are quite well known to holidaymakers. This is one of the biggest, Koh Samui. Just next door is Koh Phangan, and a little bit further away is Koh Tao. Now this is clearly a very bad storm and it's building, but even more so than that. I mean, this is the worst storm here for decades, but it's completely unexpected because the monsoon season here, which is when Thailand gets its worst weather, has finished. And now it is meant to be calm and it is meant to be sunny. This is the height of the tourist season here. And these are some of the most popular tourist islands. But what's happened in the last day is that thousands and thousands of holidaymakers have cut short their vacations to get away from this. And they've taken the last flights out, or they've taken the last ferries back to the mainland. Now the conditions clearly have deteriorated to the point where there are no longer any aeroplanes flying. The airport here on the island of Koh Samui and the closest airport on the mainland have both been closed. No flights are able to take off or land because of the conditions. And also all of the ferries, which normally take people backwards and forwards from the mainland to the island, they've all had to cancel their services as well. So many thousands of people did manage to get off the islands and have sought shelter on the mainland. But for those of us who remain, there is now no way to leave. There are no flights and there are no ferries. So those of us who are here, and that includes a number of holidaymakers who, for various reasons, have chosen to stay. They perhaps think it's not going to be too bad and they'll be able to endure the conditions, or maybe they simply couldn't get a seat on one of those aeroplanes or one of those ferries. But those of us who are here now have no way of getting off these islands, so we're just going to have to stay and see what happens. At the moment, it's not very pleasant, but it's clearly not life-threatening or anything like that. But what we've been told to expect is a build-up in the high winds that we've been feeling, possibly approaching 100 kilometers per hour. This rainfall has been constant for the last 24 hours or so, but we are told that when the rain comes down even more heavily, anything up to 25 centimeters of rainfall is expected. Now that's like this much. That's a lot of rain, and clearly what they expect with that is a lot of flooding, coupled with a storm surge. Now out at sea in the Gulf of Thailand, they're predicting waves that could reach 5 meters. I mean, that's 17 or 18 feet. And coming ashore, we don't know. Maybe they'll moderate when they come ashore, or maybe they will come ashore at that kind of height. But clearly with the rainfall and with this very high sea state, the biggest concern, the biggest consideration is flooding. Now, we've said that the flights are cancelled and the ferries are cancelled. There are, of course, warnings in place. All boats have been instructed not to go to sea. Perhaps fairly obviously, all tourists, all people here on holiday have been asked not to go into the water or to go anywhere near the water. There are red flags flying all along this beach. Now, tragically, one Russian tourist has already lost his life. It appears that not today, but a short time ago, his daughter was in the water in some difficulty. He went in to try to save her. She was saved. He drowned. So already that is being associated as a storm casualty, even though that happened a day or so ago before the worst of the weather had arrived. Now, apart from the people who are here on holiday, clearly there are people who work here out at sea here in the Gulf of Thailand. They are prospecting for oil. So there are oil platforms which are being severely battered by high winds and heavy, large waves. They have been evacuated. All of the workers on those oil platforms have been taken off excuse me, by helicopter, and they are now safely ashore. But clearly it's a situation that is developing and which is causing concern. Now, this is the worst tropical storm to hit this part of Thailand for many, many decades. It has happened a couple of times before, but the most recent was in 1982 when there was a typhoon. Now, there was so much damage caused on that occasion that around 400 people were killed. And slightly further back in 1962, a tropical storm of great severity also hit this region, and that resulted in the loss of 900 lives. So clearly you can understand why people are so concerned at the potential. These days there are more sophisticated warning systems in place, and people have tried to warn people in advance, which is why so many people were able to leave the islands. But even so, just what will happen, we don't know. Clearly with these weather events, sometimes the storms lose some of their power, sometimes they follow a slightly different track to the one that was predicted. But on the other hand, everybody has to be ready for the possibility that that doesn't happen, and that the full force of the storm comes ashore in places like this. So we're on islands off the coast of the mainland. We've said this is Koh Samui, neighbouring Koh Phangan, a little further Koh Tao. Many people have left those islands, but some still remain. On the mainland, there's also been the need to evacuate people. Many thousands of people, Thai residents and holidaymakers along the coastline of the mainland have been evacuated inshore, further away from the sea and the potential problems. Shelters have been set up. Many people on the mainland have already taken their places in those shelters. There are shelters here all across the island of Koh Samui. So far, it hasn't been necessary to evacuate to them. There are still not many, but there are one or two people wandering around in rainwear who've come to have a look and to take photographs. It isn't too dangerous at the moment, but it is clearly very wet, very windy. This is a slightly strange problem. This is a coconut tree. Now this one is actually quite small, but many coconut trees here are much higher than that, probably 30 meters or more high. And Koh Samui is an island which is known very much for its coconut production. And clearly in these really high winds, there is always the possibility that these coconuts can come crashing down and cause serious injury. So that is something particular to this island that a lot of people have to be aware of. Clearly there are some people who, please come through, there are some people who are still on holiday. We're just doing a live broadcast about the weather. Can we ask you what you feel? Do you feel?
It's quite scary though. We didn't expect it. But now we have to move to another house and wait till this ends.
So you have been staying here on in a beachfront bungalow, but the hotel has asked you to move, or you have decided?
Yeah, they asked us. Yeah, they asked the neighbours as well, so we all moved out.
Yeah. Did you go? How long have you been here on the island?
For like 10 days or so, but we come every year, the same bungalow, and never happened before.
No. Did you have any warning that this was going to happen?
Yeah, we did. Like a day before, they asked us to move out, but we decided to stay one more night. And now we're moving out, like, because it's already coming too close.
Yes, indeed. A lot of people chose to leave the island.
Yeah, I know, right? Because they say on the news that it's really dangerous, that the water can come up really close. But for now, we're just hoping it ends tomorrow.
Okay. I'll let you go, because I don't want to keep you here in the rain and the danger. But enjoy it the rest of your holiday as much as you can. So let's just let those people get past our camera and hopefully get themselves to a safer location. So yes, so those are some of the very few people who have until now anyway, still remained here close to the water's edge. This hotel particularly was not allowing people to check in to these beachfront rooms over the last few days. That family said they'd been here for 10 days and they'd been asked to move, and they'd hung on for another night, but they are moving now. But that is a factor really along this seafront, that there are a lot of hotels on the beachfront, and also they have rooms further back. But most of these beachfront rooms are being evacuated because the hotels think it's just potentially too dangerous. Also, one of the difficulties really of this storm is even if the conditions don't become too dangerous, there is going to be huge inconvenience, because islands have limited amounts of stock. They have limited amounts of food, water and other necessities. Now certainly there's enough to last for a certain period, but they are regularly resupplied by boats and by air, and that isn't happening. And also, of course, because of the warnings, it has been suggested that people stock up with basic necessities, some basic food supplies, some water and torches, because already today the electrical power was lost here at this hotel. All of the electrics went off, all of the lights went off, all of the air conditioning units and everything else. Now actually they have managed to reconnect it, and the power is currently back on. But that is one of the big things that they are expecting. They are expecting that it's very likely that this area and many others could well lose electric power. So there will be a need for torches, and there will be a need to cope with that. I don't know how much of the waves we can actually show you. They're not enormous, but they are strong, and they're picking up. And clearly the concern is that this is a forewarning of what's going to come. I mean, it's a shame you didn't see it, but just a few moments ago I was completely drenched. I was walking in the same position that I'm in now, and one particularly large wave came ashore and soaked me almost up to my waistline. So it's very often the unpredictability of exactly what's going to happen, which is the major problem. I don't know if you can see now from the trees, but the wind is really very strong and getting stronger. We don't know exactly when the storm will be at its height or when it will be past, but any time from now really for the next 24, 36 hours is going to be the main danger period. Maybe we can show you some of the precautions. We talked about hotels trying to evacuate guests from their beachfront rooms. What they've also been doing, certainly here, if the camera can pick it up, is this. This is very, very thick and very strong sort of plastic sheeting that has been strapped in place in front of the beachfront rooms to clearly protect the property. Behind this there is a small balcony veranda with tables and chairs, and then obviously behind that are the glass windows of the rooms themselves. And clearly there is a lot of concern that there could be structural damage to these beachfront properties at some point. So all in all, preparations have been made as well as they can. Those holidaymakers who've chosen to remain, we just spoke to a couple, I think they're taking the view that as long as they take adequate precautions, and as that family did, move themselves a little bit further away from the shore, another quite large wave, from the shore, they believe they'll be okay. Everybody, of course, who's here, this is the main event. So people who are here on holiday clearly are only taking notice of these conditions. So thankfully that will mean that if it does get to the point where it becomes necessary to move away from this location and move inland to some of those shelters, at least everybody will be prepared. That is the good thing, of course, because there has been a day or two of warnings, and people have been able to make preparations or leave, or if they choose to remain, then at least they can get themselves ready for whatever they have to endure. And as I say, Now there's no choice, because for those of us who are still on these islands, there is no means of getting off. We just have to stay here. Now, obviously this is a natural event, a disaster if you like, and nobody can do anything to prevent this kind of thing happening from time to time. But this is particularly difficult for the people clearly who've been affected. Now, a number of people who are on this island wanted to get back to the mainland so that they could get connecting flights to other parts of the world, perhaps to return home from their holidays. Now, of course, they've not been able to do that. I don't know whether clearly they will have to try and make further arrangements, but for the time being, they're in a difficult situation. But on a wider sort of national basis for Thailand, this, of course, is a big problem, because this is the height of the holiday season. The tourism industry is immensely important in this country. It's been one of the constant money earners for the Thai economy during recent years, where the commercial activity of business has actually taken quite a hit. This country is very much reliant on making products for export, and the global slowdown has caused economic problems. So tourism is a hugely important thing here. Now, tourism already took a major hit back in the middle of last year, when there was a very, very tragic sea incident not too far away from here, but just slightly across the southern peninsula of Thailand on the island of Phuket. And there was an accident there where a tour boat called the Phoenix was caught up in a very bad storm, and it sank. And 47 Chinese holidaymakers lost their lives. The investigation into exactly what happened, why the boat sank, and whether the boat was actually constructed to a good enough standard, whether it was being operated safely, that investigation is still going on. But it has caused a lot of distress and concern amongst holidaymakers, particularly those from China, who have stopped coming to Thailand, incensed at what they see as a lack of safety for tourists. And that incident, the sinking of the Phoenix boat and the loss of 47 Chinese lives, that has had a major, major impact on the Thai tourism industry. And Thailand has been doing everything it can to try to expedite the investigation, to provide the answers that people demand, and they say to improve safety standards both at sea and in other areas for tourists. So that was a big blow that they were trying to get over last year. Now this, although nobody will be held responsible because this is a natural event, but it is of course proving a big interruption in what should be the height of the tourist season in a land that relies heavily on tourism for its economy. So this is another difficulty for Thailand that they have to endure. But that's really for the future. Our main concern now, of course, is for the people who remain here. So at the moment, it's not really much more than the worst storm you've all seen already, but we do think that things will get a little bit worse. The trees. Oh, okay. It's just been pointed out to me that someone is actually swimming in the sea, which does seem a little bit foolhardy. Right behind us, someone has chosen to swim in the sea. Now, 2 days ago, somebody lost their lives doing something similar to this. Sometimes, with all the warnings and with all the red flags and with all the common sense in the world, you just can't stop people doing this kind of thing. Clearly, he's decided that it's an adventure to try to be in those crashing waves. Let's just hope that it isn't a miscalculation on his part and he does manage to get ashore. It does seem he's coming out of the water. Now, obviously everybody's free to do exactly what they want to do, but that is something that really people have urged very much people not to do. Okay, it looks like he's okay. Yes, there won't be many people doing that, and really it is a little bit foolhardy because clearly waves of this nature have a tremendous strength. Now, Yeah, well, he's safely ashore. Some of the hotel staff here now are removing sunbeds and chairs. Even while we've been speaking to you, that there has been a slight increase in the severity of the conditions. And clearly precautions are being taken now. Just having a quick look at Facebook to see if I can find any questions. I don't know. Can't actually find the page I need at the moment. You'll have to forgive us. It's a little bit difficult in these conditions. The camera sometimes struggles, and obviously everything we're using is electrically powered, battery powered, and if it gets too wet, it is difficult for it to operate. But we'll just let these guys get on with their job. Yeah, well, the good news is that the man who went for a swim is safely ashore. You know, I think that clearly was a little bit of a foolhardy decision, although it was his decision, and thankfully he's not suffered any long-lasting consequences from it. But this is very, very dangerous here now. We're on the brink of how things may or may not develop. If it stays like this, it'll be fine. It'll be endurable. I'm sure there'll be some flooding. If it gets worse, who knows? And certainly on this island and around, really, flooding is the #1 concern. A little bit up the coastline from here, there is an inland lake, and that has been partially drained, so that if flooding does come ashore in that area, it can hopefully be absorbed in that lake. Obstructions in various waterways and canals have been cleared, and all of the preparations really have been to cope with a sea surge or flooding. That's certainly the #1 concern. I think for now, that's as much as we can usefully tell you. Many people who are familiar with Thailand will be very familiar with these particular islands. Koh Samui is one of the #1 tourist destinations. Right next door is Koh Phangan, famous worldwide really for the parties that it stages at full moon time. A lot of people come and visit those. Koh Tao is very famous for diving. It's very popular with divers and swimmers. And as this storm moves through, this is meant to be the most affected area, but the storm will continue across the thin peninsula, which is southern Thailand, and similar precautions and similar difficulties are being taken and will be experienced on the island of Koh Phi Phi and on parts of the island of Phuket. So really the whole of southern Thailand is enduring these conditions, and over the next 24 hours we all need to take care, and we all need to see just how bad things get. But warnings have been made, precautions are being taken, shelters are open. Let's hope all of those precautions will be enough to ensure that while fairly unpleasant, this event is prevented from turning into any kind of a disaster. That's as much as we can usefully tell you for now. I hope that gave you a little bit of an understanding of what the conditions are like and allowing you to see live with us here just what's happening. So for now, that's the end of this broadcast. We're going to sign off. We're going to take a little bit of shelter ourselves, get out of this weather. So thank you very much for watching, and join us again next time here on CGTN. Bye-bye.